never talking loud, and you know plenty. You know what I'm talking about, cause you just get me. Yeah, you so pretty. If everything is dipped in gold, then baby it will never grow. Everything sweet ain't sugar-coated. What a lie.
What's up, y'all? I hope all is well. So in this video, I'm gonna be reacting to the reaction to Latto's song "Okayyy," the video with Doja Cat. So I'm gonna be reacting to the reaction to the music video. So I'm actually really surprised by the takes that came out of this video reaction, but I'm not surprised that people had a reaction because I actually saw the video when my girl Golden Goddess, shout out to her, she shared it on her page. So I was like, oh, I love Doja, I love Lotto, let me watch the video, because I actually loved the song. Like, I will say I didn't really tune into to Lotto's last album like that, but I do really like the song "Okayyy," and I had been like listening to that song. So once I saw the video came out, I was like, oh yeah, let me definitely watch it, especially since I'm not doing nothing at work. And when I saw the video, I had a feeling some people were gonna say something about it, but I actually thought that people were gonna react to the fact that they were both biracial in the song together. That's what I really thought that they were gonna have an issue with. I was not expecting the whole fetishization and dark skin men angle and everything like that. Like, I will say I didn't anticipate that, but I did think for a minute. I'm like, oh, a few people are gonna have an issue with the fact that they both mixed and doing a song together, XYZ, the usual. But I definitely was surprised about the black male worshiper angle of a lot of these arguments. I will say that. But my initial reaction to the video, me personally, I liked the video actually. Like, I thought it was funny, I thought it was cute, I thought they looked great. So that's why I was kind of surprised with the reaction, because I was like, I feel like they're gonna find something to have an issue with, but I thought it was gonna be that they don't tend to like when light skinned and mixed people work together or be together. So I thought that was really gonna be the issue, and it kind of was. But like I said, I wasn't anticipating the black male worshiper angle of it. But all in all, like I said, I really like the song anyway. So I thought the video was cool, especially because it was the ode to like the 2000s and stuff, and we all like that aesthetic now, is popular. So yeah, and yeah, I thought they looked nice and stuff like that. And yeah, is it the typical like hypersexual video and they wearing the skin clad outfits and whatever, and people are complaining about that? Okay, cool. It's like, how long are we gonna keep talking about how water is wet? That is the nature of the industry. It is what it is. So yeah, me personally, I liked the video. I thought the looks ate. I thought the shots were cute. And I'm not trying to be shady, but I love a sexy low effort video that just has good shots, good angles, and serves looks. You know what I mean? And that's what it was given. Like, you could tell they weren't doing the most. There wasn't high production. You know what I mean? I like that about the video. It was really calm, feel me? Because Doja Cat be doing the most in her videos. So it definitely reminded me of like a mixtape video, like something an artist would release when they first came out. So I liked that vibe. I definitely see what she's trying to do with like the ode to like early 2000s Southern rap, and like Vixen culture and like strip clubs and all that. Like, I like the aesthetic. I think it's cute. Like, yeah, is it raunchy? It's always gonna be those people that complain. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But I think it looked nice. I think it was a cool video. It was what it is. It was like 2 minutes. Like, and honestly, it was like some of the same. Like, it's not anything that we haven't seen before. So me personally, I do think that this reaction was a great example of Colorism Inc. doing what it do, because it's like, I feel like it's been a drought on colorism stories recently. You notice I haven't heard a lot of different stuff going viral or seen anything on the blogs that was related to colorism. So I feel like they was fiending for a colorism story, and this was the perfect thing. Like, okay, two biracial women that we haven't really been fucking with the last few months, not them having our dark skin kings in the video, and then Doja Cat don't even like them. She don't even know what to do with that. Yeah, I have a problem. So that's what this whole reaction was giving. Like, yeah, that's why I call it Colorism Inc. Because the narrative will be have a seed planted somewhere. It starts from some big platform, and then it spreads all over the internet. Because to me, I just feel like it was such a reach. And considering the discourse that I see on social media, particularly TikTok, amongst younger women, I thought we were past these conversations. And some of the people that were giving these weird whiteboard takes about the situation. I even followed them, like I followed them for like feminist, womanist content, like women's issues and things like that. And then to see them talking about this video, I was surprised, especially with some of the stances that they took. Like, I'm not gonna say who, but some of them I was genuinely surprised. Like, I really thought we were past this. Like, this conversation is very 2016, so I'm super duper confuzzled as to where this was coming from, because I thought we were decentering things. I thought we were for being. I thought we were getting cats. Like, I'm confused as to where this reaction is coming from. And speaking of that, that actually brings up an argument that Golden Goddess made in her video. Shout out to her. I'm going to put her video on the screen. Definitely go check out her commentary about it, because I really like what she said. And she was talking about how, like, with the men in the video, you can tell they were kind of trying to switch the positions, like, kind of make the men like the vixens in a way. Like, in a lot of early 2000s videos, they had the women as like props, basically. And so, like, that was kind of the vibe that they were kind of trying to give with the men. And I hadn't even like thought about that. Honestly, I really did not think that much about the men in the video. I really didn't. Like, I'm not even trying to front. Like, I really didn't overthink it. I mostly thought that, oh, they're gonna have an issue with them two working together, because the narrative. But I didn't even think about that angle. So when people were reacting to it and having an issue with all the dark skin men in the video, I was a little surprised about that. But I like that angle that Golden Goddess took it from, and said, like, baby, basically she was using the men as like vixens, and the focus was on her, but they're just kind of there. So I kind of liked that angle, and I think that that was what they were trying to do. But I didn't immediately interpret it like that. But after watching it again, I was like, oh, I can kind of see that. And there were times when you can see that that was when she was doing it, like when she was dancing in the bathroom. First she was there by herself, then all of a sudden the dudes are just there, and they're like, what is that, doing the muscle ups or whatever, or the push-ups. Yeah, they're doing push-ups, and then they're not there anymore. It was interesting. So I thought that a lot of the different camera shots and the different backgrounds and everything, I thought that was interesting. So yeah, it reminded me of a 2000s R&B video or a hip hop video. So that's what I liked about it, and I think that was what she was going for. So she definitely succeeded with that vibe. But I really liked that whole using the men in like the vixen angle, or like as the object of sensuality. You know what I mean? Instead of using how they usually represent women in that position, putting men in that position instead. I thought that was an interesting angle, and I did like that. But the reality is that this reaction and other women of African descent viewing this situation through this lens, that I personally feel like is a covert male identified lens, because not only is it like low key not your business, it has nothing to do with you. And it's like, if men feel that way, they need to be defending themselves in any capacity. That's just how I feel. I do not be out here defending groups of men. I speak the truth about how things harm everybody. For example, misogyny harms everybody. Associating different skin tones with masculinity and femininity, that's literally a European Greek concept, and the Greeks were freaks and weirdos. Yeah, that's problematic to people. You know what I mean? How homophobia affects men, particularly male victims of sexual abuse, things like that. That's not coming out and defending entire groups of men. That's what y'all do. Y'all felt personally offended because you saw light-skinned biracial women in a video full of a bunch of deep brown to dark skinned men. Because a lot of these dudes, I'm very particular about that, because people be trying to play games, and it's like, no, 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 keep that same energy that you had in 2008. Don't try to claim to be dark skinned now because you want to be victims of light skinned and biracial people. No, 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 no. Yeah, the subconscious defense of black men because y'all share a phenotype, that's an issue. Because, okay, you can see that something's wrong, but you shouldn't be like getting offended hopping on the internet defending them, especially when we know it's never reciprocated. So that's what I'm talking about, and that's a great way to segue into what I was going to say next, is that this reaction and this mindset is a result of triangulation mixed with the lack of reciprocation, and how that impacts black women's self-perception in relation to others. I feel like this is a very important aspect of this conversation that a lot of people don't want to get into, or just simply don't see it that way, or don't have the range for, different reasons. But a lot of this stems from triangulation. I have another video coming up about this next that's going to be like talking about jealousy, but a lot of times in a lot of cultures this gets whittled down to jealousy, and sometimes it is jealousy, like, okay, sometimes it is, but I think that these feelings are way more complex than that, and I think that these narratives are way more complex than that, and I actually think that dismissing it as jealousy is part of the okey doke. I think it's part of the play that men run on women. It's like manipulation. It's make I can't even describe it, but anyway, it's like it's setting you up to say something stupid so that it backfires on you, and then you end up looking dumb later, or it makes it so people don't feel bad for you because at one point you're on top, but then narcissistic people know that they're going to bring you back down eventually. So it's like, yeah, you can have that high for a little bit, but you know what I mean? So it's like they're kind of setting you up to look dumb. So you take the fall, and then they're looking like the innocent party, and that's kind of what's happening here. I'm sure there are certain men that absolutely love to see dark skinned women going at biracial and light skinned women on social media. They are absolutely loving this. They're not saying anything because I think that they've gotten smart to the fact that um it's not acceptable to talk like that on the internet anymore. They understand it's not in their best interest to talk like that on the internet anymore because it's not appropriate. But sure as I know, there are a good significant portion of black men that are loving to see this whole fighting and people going back and forth, and they're also loving watching light-skinned biracial women grovel and beg and throw themselves under the bus and be apologetic and everything. They absolutely love that too. So just because they're not saying nothing, I think that they're definitely loving this dynamic. So we know they're not gonna say nothing, but yeah, a lot of people don't want to talk about that, and I think that also just dismissing all of this to, oh, this is about slavery and so and so was in the house and in the field. When first of all, that's not even how shit went down. I don't know what records y'all have to quote that that's exactly what happened outside of a Willie Lynch letter that's been proven to be a troll. So there, that's bullshit. And then number two, what's more impactful? What was happening during slavery 200 years ago, or what men that women are raised to see as better than them and to see as important to have in their life and being a heterosexual relationship? Women are raised from a young age to see what men think about them as important. The men that you're raised to see as the most important in your culture, they're on the internet triangulating you against people who look nothing like you or aren't even in your group, talking negatively about you, saying you're not the preference. And then somehow it becomes a woman versus woman conversation. That is going to affect how you view yourself in relation to others. So people want to seem like, oh, that's just on the internet, or that's just what people say. And it's like, no, clearly what people were saying on the internet when they were in high school, what boys and men were saying on the internet, or maybe in their household around them, was saying when they were in high school and middle school, is clearly still impacting their self-perception and how they view themselves in relation to others. And now other women are having to deal with that because they're reacting to that triangulation. So I'm not saying that there's like a little black man in their head pulling strings, but let's be real here. Women are raised to see how men view them as important. So although I find it annoying when they make these videos about light skin and mixed women, I understand why they're doing it. I'm not dismissing it, but I understand where it's coming from. And that's why I'm like, these feelings are way more complicated than jealousy. And it's a lot of mind games going on to just whittle it down to jealousy. Sometimes people are jealous, but it's like, why y'all never talk about people being jealous of people's living situations? Y'all never talk about people being jealous of people's parental situations, people being jealous of people's jobs in terms of the easiness. Maybe it's not that they get paid more, but maybe it's just they're living a soft life in terms of what type of work they do. I know there's people of color, but black people in particular, they never talk about jealousy in regards to stuff like that, but they always talk about it in regards to like isms. And I think that that's very interesting, and that's another way that they set people up to look stupid and further play. So now I'm gonna address some of like the arguments against the video that I saw. I saw a few different people's perspectives and like compilations that people made. Like shout out to Cerebral. I watched her video, saw what some people who didn't like the video said. I also saw some people, even on my TikTok, people I was actually surprised about, because there's some of these women that made videos, not liking the video or saying that it was colorist. They're actually people I follow for like feminist womanist content. So I was actually really surprised when I saw their take on it and that they were coming at it from a black man worshiper angle. I was like, this is kind of strange. So that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this too, because I'm like, I'm seeing a lot of different areas of improvement in a lot of these arguments, because I feel like some of this stuff shouldn't even have been brought up, and it's revealing that it's even coming back up. So first I want to bring up the angle that people were saying that basically the video just shows dark skin men as objects and it's just like kind of fetishization-y and XYZ, you know what I mean? And that it makes them uncomfortable seeing these light skinned women surrounded by all these dark skinned guys and XYZ, you know what I mean? So what I found particularly interesting about that argument is that this actually kind of connects to my perspective on what I was saying about Cardi B in one of my shorts recently. And I was talking about how when black immigrants come to this country, generally when they're from the Caribbean, not so much against amongst Africans, I've noticed, but ones that come from the Caribbean and Latin America, generally what black immigrants do is that they integrate into black American culture. And so that also goes for taking on the black male worshiper ideals of black American women, because black male worshiperism shows up differently in Latin America and the Caribbean and even in the UK, I feel like, than it does like amongst black Americans, because these places have specific histories and how black men and women interact with each other. So generally when you have black immigrants coming from the Caribbean and Latin America, they integrate into what black American women are already doing. So one of the things that are going on within the 2010s, I was talking about this with Cardi B, is this sudden heavy promotion of dark skinned men being the preference. Now I would say this is something that's more recent within the last 15 years. Okay, because there was definitely a time when they were clowning on dark skinned men heavy, they were clowning on African men heavy. You would not see them hyping up at 𝙬𝙖𝙧𝙚 in the 80s and XYZ. So it's been times when I feel like the preference in the media was brown skin men. It was times it was light skin men. You know what I mean? I feel like in the 90s it was definitely brown skin men, and we're gonna come back to that. But I feel like in the 90s it was brown skin men and a little bit of light skin men. Then in 2000s light skin men was in. Then it went to dark skin men, right? Okay, cool. So that being said, when you take someone like Cardi B mainly promotes herself to black American women, even though the whole world does support Cardi B. A lot of Hispanics, no matter what country they come from, do support Cardi B and do listen to her, but mainly she's an American artist, you know what I mean? So she's promoted amongst black Americans. And even a lot of the messages she was saying in her recent album, I could tell, you know what I mean, like, oh, that's, you got that from black American girls, you know what I mean? So my point is that bringing that back around to Lotto and shoot, sorry, I have some plans tonight and then somebody else is calling. Sorry. I'm a busy gal. So yeah, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, bringing that back to Lotto and Doja Cat, right? So Lotto is a biracial woman, but mostly markets herself to urban black American culture, right? So it makes sense that if the narrative preference right now is dark skinned men and that's what's in style right now, why wouldn't Lotto have a bunch of dark skinned men in her video? Like, so I kind of feel like that angle about, oh, this is fetishization and this is the light skin agenda and XYZ. I feel like that argument was extremely disingenuous, because it's like, why are we pretending like whenever you hop on social media? I see this on Instagram, TikTok. I even used to see it on Facebook when I was still on there about 6-7 years ago. Twitter, wherever, when it was that, the narrative has consistently been, oh, I like a tall, buff, dark skinned dude with tattoos. This has consistently been the narrative. So why is it that now that Lotto, whose main base and market is black American women, she's putting what's the preference today in her video? Like, I don't understand that. And this is what irritates me about a lot of these conversations, because I called this in my notes the preference reinforcement, because this is the cultural narrative amongst black women right now. And I've talked about this heavily on my channel about how right now it is not cool to be dating light skinned dudes like it was in the early 2000s or in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, you always see that everywhere. So I just feel like it's mad disingenuous to now be turning around and like having an issue with these two biracial women for having them in the video. And what I was gonna go into that about brown skin dudes is that it's funny that Lotto got a bunch of dark skinned men in her video. Mind you, her baby daddy is not even dark skinned. Like, 21 Savage is literally brown skin, and he's almost on the lighter end of brown skin too. And it's like, why is the narrative culturally, oh, dark skinned men are the preference, but most black men in the United States are not dark skinned. Most black men are brown skinned on a spectrum of brown skin. Of course, it's like some people are lighter, some people are darker, but most black men in general are brown skin. So I just always found this interesting. It's like, okay, so y'all reinforcing this narrative that dark skinned men are the preference. Most black men ain't even dark skinned. We know y'all hype up all black men. Y'all want to sit up here and pretend like y'all don't like light skinned men. Y'all have been consistently supporting Chris Brown for the past 20 years. So something's got to give. Blueface too. Who is supporting Blueface? So black men and black women support a lot of these degenerate light skinned men too. So they say one thing in the and just online or just in general, they'll just say one thing as the narrative, but that's not really how it's panning out. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just feel like it is a little disingenuous that y'all keep reinforcing this narrative that dark skin are the preference, but then y'all getting offended when these women have these men in this video. I don't think that that's fair. And I find it ironic that black men worshippers are trying to say that Lotto and Doja Cat are fetishizing dark skinned men, when I'm sorry, but in my opinion, like I said, most black men in the United States are brown skinned. So the constant obsession with dark skinned men and then them being buff and with the tattoos and everything, I'm sorry, but in general it gets into fetishy territory, because y'all also will reinforce this narrative that being dark skinned is more masculine. And it's like, who told you that? Because that is not something that white or European culture believes. Not that they're the default or their opinion matters, but I think it's interesting that black people will say that, oh, well, being dark skinned means you're more masculine. But when you look in the fashion industry in Europe, in Milan, in New York City, and all these places that are the standard of high fashion that has a trickle down effect to black people, they're getting East African women that are super skinny, super dark, barely any ass and titties, and the complete opposite of what the female standard in the black community is. High fashion levels up these women, even women from all over Africa. And I be going out with my African friends and I be seeing how these European and white guys and even Asian guys be acting when it comes to African women. So it's like the world does not enforce that narrative. This is a narrative that's enforced in the black community, and then y'all feel some type of way and project that onto each other. And I've never liked that. And it's like, I think that if you like black men, why don't you just like them equally among skin tone? Like, you shouldn't be breaking them up by skin tone and saying, oh, well, I'm gonna make exceptions for this one and that one. It's like, it's creating a very toxic dynamic, and it's not healthy, and it's not even rooted in reality. Because at the end of the day, the problem is the way culture is dealing with gender and relationships and things like that. It's not about skin tone. I do think that certain people may have different experiences in life based on their skin tone, and that might impact how they feel about their self and their way they interact with women. I can believe that, but I just don't think that it's healthy to keep reinforcing these narratives like, oh, I want this skin color of black dude, oh, I prefer this, oh, this color acts this way, this color acts the other way. Black women have done a lot in enforcing that narrative as well, so I don't think that it's fair to be like, oh, this is what society thinks. No, this is what black culture is saying at the moment. And for a long time, y'all have been making dark women the butt of the joke, but then y'all started with this whole masculinity narrative, and that's more of a newer thing too. It's like, black people don't even talk like that. Where y'all getting these words masculine and feminine? These are European concepts from Greece, which is they had a lot of weird and negative concepts about gender and gender relations. So why would you listen to anything Europeans and especially the Greeks are saying? Masculinity and femininity, that's not something that comes from African or indigenous cultures. What are you talking about? So this is what I'm saying. Like, y'all enforce these narratives, and then when they play out in the media, because the media mirrors what they think the people want to see, which is why Lotto and Doja Cat have a bunch of dark skin in their video. Now people are feeling some type of way. Mind you, Lotto didn't even choose a dark skin man. Lotto's with a brown skin man from the UK who's Guyanese with face tattoos. Like, Lotto's baby daddy don't even look nothing like the dudes that was in that video. Like, they're doing that to promote to other black women because they think that that's what other black women want to see. So it's just disingenuous. And that's why I even said with a lot of these black Latina women like Cardi B that, they mostly hang with black American girls like that. They're saying they like dark skinned men because they trying to keep up with the Joneses. Y'all saying y'all like dark skinned men, so they want to be like y'all. They are integrating into being with other people of African descent. It's natural, and that's what Lotto was doing. And this is what I find very interesting about the whole biracial thing, is that y'all have an issue with people like Doja Cat because they were also saying, oh, Doja Cat doesn't even like black men, so we know she's fetishizing them by having them in the video. Bruh, this is Lotto's video. Lotto has an urban crowd. She has a different audience than Doja Cat. Doja Cat, I really like Doja Cat. I think Doja Cat is a different type of person than Lotto too. There's nothing wrong with that. But this video is being promoted to Lotto's audience. So Doja Cat is doing what the money gotta do. What that's what entertainment is. You know what I mean? You don't get to sit there and choose the dude you about to be dancing in front of. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, it's weird to me that he's in prison and this just sends a bad message. I'm like, y'all are doing a lot of projecting and y'all are really thinking too deep into it. Like, yes, the video has a lot of regressive messages. Hip hop in general, unfortunately, continues to push out a lot of low vibrational regressive stuff. It is what it is. Doja Cat is in Latto's video. She cannot be like, oh, can I ship in a white guy to be, here because I'm not comfortable. Like, that would have been weird too. You know what I mean? Like, it just all would have been weird. And then, so you're going to have Lotto dancing with black guys, and then you're going to have a Doja Cat dance with a white guy. Mind you, the black guys don't even look like Lotto's baby daddy that y'all dragged her for. You know what I mean? Like, the whole narrative and dynamic is just weird to me. And it's like, y'all, let's be real here. Y'all only have looking this deep into it and having this much of an issue with it because it's two biracial women in this social climate right now. Like, let's be for real here. But yeah, so I just found that funny. But yeah, most black men in the United States are literally brown skinned. So I don't really even understand this whole weird narrative. And then yeah, I feel like a lot of black men worshipers, that's their guilty conscience talking when they talk about the fetishization thing. Because it's like, I'm sorry, but some of y'all do be on some territorial not predatory, but territorial, like borderline fetishy stuff. Because it's like, why, first of all, you keep trying to reinforce this narrative about masculinity versus femininity and how you think that's making dark skinned women feel, and then it's just not helpful for anybody in the black community. And it's like, if you truly like black guys, I don't understand why you just don't like them equally across skin tone. Why are you always trying to break them up and pathologizing based on skin tone, but then you get super defensive when black guys do that to us? Like, rightfully so, because it's ignorant. But it's like, it's ignorant either way around. It's like, respectfully, also, you're letting them project onto you, and you're internalizing what they say, and then you're repeating it, and it's problematic. And y'all have gotten these messages from mostly black guys, when, mind you, most black guys in the United States are brown skinned, so they don't give a shit whether they harming dark skinned women or light skinned men. They don't care. It doesn't affect them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just being real with you. So it's funny to just throw these narratives, yeah, light skin dudes just off XYZ, if it doesn't affect you. You know what I mean? So that's what I think a lot of it is too. And then black women are taking it and run with it because y'all internalize the things that they say. And it's just like, I think that the reaction to this video was an excellent example of how that comes out, because the reaction was just completely disproportionate to what the video was like 2 minutes. It was not that deep. But yeah, and then the whole thing about Doja Cat had me dead too. They're like, oh, Doja Cat doesn't even like black men. It was like that they was mad that Doja Cat got to be around a bunch of dark skinned dudes, and they know that they not her preference. Like, that's what it was giving to me. Like, but yeah, I mean, shoot, if it was my video, it would have been dudes of all races, all skin tones, period. Like, you cannot limit yourself. Like, do not let them and they little insecurities, I'm talking about black men, do not let them limit themselves, because they want to travel the world, be around everybody, sit up under non-black people all day, but then they expect you to sit around and sit on the block and look at the same 4 brown skin and dark skin dudes. Like, girl, bye. Nobody got time for that. So I feel like this is another issue too. Black women need to start having a more of an international message. And one thing I do like about Doja Cat and SZA as well, they always put different races of guys in their videos. Stop centering black men in your desirability, because now they're getting very entitled and they're not even reciprocating it. It's ridiculous at this point. And this video was a great example of it. You wouldn't be feeling this way or feeling like, I don't know, this scarcity when it comes to black men if you were not internalizing what they were saying. First of all, there's no scarcity of them. Number one, that's a narrative that they created in the 90s, so you would hurry up and let them turn you into a baby mama. There's no scarcity of black men, trust me. And if you want one that bad, go to another country if it's that deep. You know what I mean? Stop letting them scare you into that. No, they should not be censored in these music videos anymore, because yeah, it's not being reciprocated, and it's creating an entitlement and an imbalance in the community. So yeah, that's my opinion. I think Doja Cat does that really well. I've watched a lot of her videos. She does not only have white dudes in her videos, same thing with SZA, and we know her preference is black males, and SZA don't even only put black men in her videos either. And she has a broad audience, same as Doja Cat. They have diverse audiences, and they're not just relying on black male worshipers and black men and their fickleness as their support base. And that's why Doja Cat and Lotto and SZA have a little bit more leeway and more creative freedom, and they have a wider base because they haven't limited themselves like someone like Lotto, unfortunately. And I like Lotto, but let's be real here, she has limited herself in the way she markets herself, even though I like her marketing. I think it's really cute. I love the Y2K, Southern baddie vibes. Like, I really think the whole cheetah print is mad cute and everything. Even the Okayyy video, I really liked it. But I'm just being honest with you, like, when you kind of when you don't diversify your imagery and diversify your aesthetic, it can limit you. And I feel like that's why Doja Cat gets a lot of hate because they see that Doja Cat has that diversity element. I'm just being honest with you, as where other people don't. So they feel like they can keep being Lotto upside the head because they feel like, well, you don't got nowhere to go. Mind you, I was gonna say this. I didn't get to finish this thought. But I was going to say, I think that is really funny that they complain about biracial people like Doja Cat and say, oh, she's disconnected with her blackness. Oh, she was in a chat room 10 years ago saying XYZ and this cut up video came out and whatever. Okay. They have an issue with that. Doja Cat, they don't even pay attention to Doja Cat until it's some controversy, mind you. But then they're like, Doja Cat's always antagonizing black people. When was the last time y'all paid any attention to Doja Cat? Be for real. But anyway, so they complain about biracial people like Doja Cat, but they also don't like people like Lotto because they're saying, oh, Lotto is fake Southern. Oh, she's like Nunu from ATL. Oh, she's a fraud. She's really from Ohio, this and that. And it's just like, which one do you want? Do you want biracial people to try to integrate into the black community and engage in black men worship culture and put a bunch of dark skin men in their videos? Or do you want them to be Doja Cat and to have her haircut really short and be doing like rock music and have 80s pop, like pop aesthetic? Like, which one is it? You know what I mean? So I just feel like that also shows that no matter what you do as like a mixed person, certain people are going to have an issue with it and have something to say.
I would also appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already and the content resonates with you. Welcome, as well as making sure you hit the bell for notifications so you'll be informed every time I upload a new video or go live. I'd also encourage you to check out my Patreon where you can access old and exclusive content, as well as having early access to new uploads. That will be linked in the description box below.
So what irritates me about this preference reinforcement dynamic amongst black women? First of all, number one, like I haven't experienced this in my life or like amongst my friends, but I could imagine if y'all all trying to talk to the same few, brown skinned dudes with dreads, right? And then y'all all got the same type. Isn't that number one easier for them to play games amongst y'all? Easier for them to, keep y'all in rotation, number one. And then number two, you're going to constantly feel in competition, especially if you're being told that there's a scarcity of good black men that actually have jobs. You know what I mean? So I feel like, again, everybody's being set up to look stupid in this dynamic. So number one, I always found that weird because it's like, how many dark skinned men are there really? And I've said that in other portions of the video. I'm like, most black men are brown skinned. So that was always weird to me too. So I'm glad that that's not something I personally experienced, but I'm sure that other women are having that issue because it's like if y'all all on the internet, all black women of all skin tones, different mixes, whatever, and y'all all saying y'all want this one group of dudes that are the minority. Mind you, a lot of them don't even date women of African descent anymore. Like, we won't even get into that, but it's like, how is that working? So number one, black women keep limiting their own dating pool and limiting who they're, I guess, attracted to or looking at. And then when they feel kind of hyper competitive amongst each other, or they feel like there's this like scarcity when men, is like, you kind of like, I'm not saying you put yourself in that dynamic, but listening to what they're saying or internalizing that, it's putting you more so in that mindset. Mind you, it ain't no scarcity of them. There's a whole continent full of them. There's no shortage of black dudes, but it's like the way black women act, they act like it is. So yeah, I just feel like there's a subconscious level of just constant competition for dick that black men worshipers exist in, and it just seems like that when I listen to them talk, and even like when I'm like talking to like people around, in my life and stuff like that in real life. I'm just like, why do y'all like let them make it seem like there's some scarcity of them, or like you need to be dealing with this? Like and I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm not even trying to sound the same way, but I feel like that's why they don't even bother with a lot of girls that they notice date like men outside of the culture, because it's like why would I go for that shit? Like, you know what I mean? Especially when you barely doing anything in my life anyway. So it's just like there's that aspect of it. So I do feel like it's very interesting that they're always talking about they want to date the same type of dudes. Number two, because of the preference reinforcement, also subconsciously, women that are brown or darker skin, I feel like some of them may feel, some of the black men worshipers may feel like biracial and light skinned women have an unfair advantage. And so that is why now they're spinning it into being, oh, this is the biracial agenda, because now the one-sided preference reinforcement has not been reciprocated, and it's never been reciprocated. But when you see a video like that, I guess subconsciously it reinforces that narrative, and then you're thinking it's like, well, if we all trying to date the same couple, like brown skin and dark skin dudes, and I know that these dudes are color struck as hell, well, you're weaponizing your skin tone against me, and because you have an unfair advantage. That's what it really gives to me. And I'm just saying this is like an outside party, you know what I mean? I'm just saying this from someone who's observed how black men worshippers think and date and things like that. And when it's like, you can like who you like, but you got to understand, if you're constantly hyping up a group of men publicly and you talking about this in your music and this is what's stylish and in today and everything, yeah, and they're triangulating y'all against each other based on who's married, who's a baby mama, who can cook, who got real hair. Like, they constantly triangulate black men worshipers about everything. So it's like, why wouldn't you buy into the skin tone thing subconsciously, even if you as an adult know that that's not how you should think? It's hard to not feel like that, especially if you constantly sing that in real life and in the media too. So that's why I found it very interesting when they were saying that this video was promoting a biracial agenda, because I'm like, that's interesting that you perceive it that way, because I feel as though for the past 15 years at least, y'all have been pushing a dark-skinned black man agenda. Like, and again, it's no problem for you to like who you like, but it's like, I've encountered black men worshippers that are literally offended. Like, they are offended if you don't predominantly, like, mainly find dark skinned black men attractive, or mainly want to date them, or things like that. Like, they see it as a slight, or like, I've definitely seen that before. And I don't know, maybe that's because of how, my phenotype or my background, maybe that's where that was coming from, because I do know with a lot of black men worshippers, they feel like if you're light skin or mixed and you don't date dark skinned men, they feel like they can't trust you, because they feel like you're like, you trace whiteness or light skin or whatever. But then they also don't like black men worshiping light skinned women who only want to date and praise dark skinned men, because then they feel like they're low-key colorists too, because then they say that they feel the same way as dark-skinned men, or they say things like the biracial agenda. So it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And of course, this is not everyone. People are on a sliding scale of these mentalities, but this is what I've encountered too. So that's why I feel like, well, y'all have been pushing a dark-skinned black man agenda, because you shouldn't feel personally affected by who other people's preference is. Like, and I don't even like to get into the preference thing, because I feel like that's stupid. Like, you shouldn't even have racial preference. You should just date people based on who you click with. Like, it's a weird conversation anyway, so I don't even like to entertain it. But it's like, let's be for real here. This video is being promoted in this way because black women and women of African descent, regardless of mixture, have been pushing a dark-skinned black man agenda. That this is just facts. So don't act brand new now because Lotto, who's not a popular person right now, is using that in her video, when again, her baby daddy is not even dark skinned. Like, and this is what I be talking about, like, why constantly talking about dark skinned men, and a lot of these women are with brown skinned men who aren't even like dark brown. Like, 21 Savage, take off them tattoos, he's literally like inching towards being a red bone, but no, he's definitely brown skinned. But I just find it really funny. It's like, so y'all literally sitting up here fighting over dark skinned men who none of y'all are even with. Like, and then another thing that just annoys me about this conversation, and this might sound callous, but I'm just being honest with you. Another thing that really irritates me is, like, why do we have to have these conversations and act as though, like, let's say there are light-skinned or biracial women who do, think that they're better because their skin tone or because their background or whatever. Let's say that they do feel that way. Wouldn't they probably feel like that because people put those ideas in their head? Because this is where I have the issue. They act like this is inherent to light-skinned women, and then we have to prove that we don't think like that, when that is not a common belief of light-skinned women. And this is where the propaganda needs to cease, because this is the thing. They're trying to paint a picture that light-skinned women have a certain pathology, or we tend to have a certain thought process, and if we don't, we're an exception to the rule, when in reality, they're getting all of these weird ideas and perceptions or self-perceptions in relation to others, thinking that, black women and Latinas have an issue with each other, or that light-skinned women think XYZ way. A lot of these things come from narratives that men came up with and consistently continue to push, whether it be in pop culture or on the internet or even just interpersonally, because black men will talk like that straight up in front of their girlfriend, trying to compare they girlfriend amongst somebody who looks nothing like them or do some corny shit like that. Like, I've seen it happen in person. And I feel like black men really play into triangulation. Not trying to be mean, but it's the truth. So they play a lot of games with women because in society they don't really control nothing like that. So they try to control women's feelings and how they feel about themselves. So yeah, what irritates me is that they try to make it seem like these are things that light-skinned women led them to believe. No, you believe these things because of what men planted seeds in your head and said. And that's unfortunate. I'm empathetic, but it's like we have to be real here too. You can't just keep trying to do this light skin and dark skin thing amongst women, or try to make these videos where you have a huge platform and generalize a whole skin tone of women that have different backgrounds, different age groups, different life experiences, different phenotypes. There's not even one phenotype or skin tone of light skin. So we're gonna sit up here like make it seem like 𝘾𝙤𝙢𝙢𝙚 with dreadlocks. You know what I mean? And like like I don't know, like I'm in logic or some shit. Like those are two different types of light skin. So it's like, what are we even talking about here? And so like I don't even be trying to major and minors, but I'm just saying that's how much of a silly conversation it is. Just like it would be silly to do that amongst like saying like, oh, all dark skinned women are jealous, or all dark skinned women feel XYZ way. I disagree with that. I don't talk like that on my channel. Notice how I don't generalize people's skin tones or their mentality based on attributes about them. I don't do that. I talk about people's personality types, and that's what I honestly think it is. I think it's a certain personality type of person that really has been impacted by triangulation and tends to view the world in that way. I don't think that it's a skin tone thing. I think that it's a way people think thing. That's why I was really surprised to see some of the womanist feminist content creators that I follow for what I would consider enlightening, introspective, thoughtful content that with has a modern take, but then they're still kind of in that mindset about what women in the black community think based on how they look and things like that. And I just feel like that's a toxic mentality that needs to be let go and divested from as well. So that's just one thing that I be having an issue with. It's like, stop trying to act like you believe all these things because of something that light-skinned women collectively led you to believe, or you have some like real substantial evidence based on like anecdotes or third-hand accounts that you got from social media, or spun stories from something that happened when you was in elementary school or middle school. Like, I don't have time for that. Let's be for real here. Women have these mentalities about each other and feel these ways because of ideas men put in their head, whether it be from marketing, pop culture, or interpersonal dynamics. And that's why I just get tired of these conversations. It's like, how long are y'all gonna make these videos saying that y'all know how light-skinned women think? If you know how light-skinned women think, why haven't you figured out how black men think and how to affect black women's lives positively because of that? That's what I don't understand. If you got all the answers about how Latinas think, how biracial women think, how light-skinned women think, everybody else's psychology, why haven't we cracked the code on why black men act the way that they do? Because I think I understand their mentality very, very well, actually. It's really not complicated. I think that why it's confusing to other black women is because there's a lot of things they choose to not see. And they're still talking about single mothers and people choosing right and, put a ring on it and all this type of stuff. It's like there's things you're choosing to not see because it's uncomfortable to accept. It's uncomfortable to accept how black men's mentalities and actions reflects their values. To me, it's really not confusing, but I think that it is hard for a lot of people to accept that. So it is what it is. And again, I'm not saying that men are making women think things. I think that it's the cultural influence and the cultural narratives that lead women to see each other in a triangulation type way. And there actually are men who literally do triangulate black women against each other and against women of different skin tones and for different reasons. Again, not being married, being a single mother, being religious, being more modest, who's educated and who's not, who's younger and older. You know what I mean? They're constantly doing this in different ways. So to pretend like women, whether you consider yourself a feminist or a content creator that talks about women's issues or not, any type of woman can be receptive to internalizing triangulation just based on the society that we live in. So I feel like that was really playing out in the reaction to this music video, because I just feel like this narrative that Lotto makes her whole personality about being biracial and everything about her is just glorified being light skinned and being mixed. And it's like, I'm sorry, Lotto does not give that at all. She had that name almost 8 years ago. She changed the name. She's moved on. She was younger at that time. It was her black father that was managing her. Notice how they never talk about that. They never come for the father or the actual black parent, but they put the responsibility on the mixed child that was 16 when they came out. Like, she was literally a minor when she came out. Why is nobody asking why her father was as her manager even cool with that? But they keep pathologizing her based on that. I find that very interesting. But anyway, to me, Lotto just don't give that. And then Doja Cat don't even bother anybody. Like, I just feel like they just don't like Lotto as a person, and it's like they're just looking for reasons to not like her. But I feel like with Doja Cat, like, they keep bringing up that chat room situation and everything, which was weird. But it's like I can't even fully always believe how things look with these people, because they always like spinning stories on the internet. But it's like Lotto doesn't even, Doja Cat doesn't even bother anybody, and they're still using that chat room situation against her. And this is like, just don't watch the video. Like, it was just all just weird. And they're like, oh, they're the queens of anti-blackness, and they have issues with their black side, but they're in this video. I'm just like, bro, the reaches, like, I hope you scratch that itch with all those reaches, because it was a lot going on. That's why I kind of waited to make this video too, because I'm like, dude, is this even worth like talking about this? Am I gonna like lose brain cells like making this video? But I think that it was a good Colorism Inc. situation to react to, because it definitely really revealed a lot, because I thought we were way farther in the discussion than we are. So, and that kind of goes into the next part of my notes, when I heard some people saying like, oh, this is the biracial agenda or the light skin agenda. But I mostly heard people saying, like, complaining about them like both being biracial or whatever. And I also found that funny, because yeah, I just, so like, okay, they can't do a song together now. Like it's an agenda because they did a collab together. Mind you, let's be for real here. We know Lotto and Doja Cat will probably never hang out in real life. Like, come on. I like the song, but I feel like their labels probably put them up to this. But it came out great. Like, I hope they enjoyed their time together. I hope, they do stay in touch. They're cool and everything, whatever. But let's be for real here. But yeah, I just find that interesting too, that they also are now having an issue with it when biracial people like engage in like very like stereotypical black culture too. So now they're having an issue with people who they say are disconnected with their culture, but then when somebody like Lotto, they're saying she's a fraud and that they don't like her. I don't know. It's very interesting, but I've definitely noticed a huge shift in at least public opinion on TikTok when it comes to her. I think after the whole situation with 21 Savage, and I have been really disappointed with the narratives that I've been seeing about her when it comes to like post her having the baby. And unfortunately, this is why I be trying to say I think that black men worship is a huge problem, because I think it skews a lot of people's perspectives on reality. And I think that a lot of that hate started after the whole baby situation, and the whole narrative being saying that she was the side chick, and then that it was just very weird. And unfortunately, that kind of goes back to what I was talking about limiting yourself. I'm not saying that she wouldn't have gotten dragged or she would have been able to avoid that had she had more diverse fan base, but I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, now they're turning on her. At first they were really supporting her, like her last two albums, but now all of a sudden there's been like a shift, and I heard her album kind of might have been impacted by that as well. But anyway, and then I also saw some people saying things like, oh, this is why we need to separate being light skinned and being biracial, because this was biracial behavior and this and that. And I was just like, oh my God, like y'all know I just feel like a lot of these arguments are very disingenuous, because I subscribe to the belief that people mostly, when it comes to race, they go based off phenotype and how you look. People generally, they do not care what your parents are. And I'm just not saying that in the sense that, oh, they're gonna call you XYZ, but I mean in the sense that I don't think that the average person is sitting there thinking too deeply whether somebody is mixed or biracial or light skinned. And I'm gonna say this, living in New York City, like, we don't really have a lot of black, white, biracial people here. We have mostly people who would be Hispanic, so Afro-Latino, or we have people that are some type of light skin, either African American or Caribbean, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So we don't even assume that people are biracial. So if we saw Lotto or Doja Cat walking down the street, nobody would assume that they were biracial. They would assume that they had a certain ethnicity. So that's why I find these conversations to be very funny. And it's like, y'all can sit around and play these games because you're in places where there's not a lot of light-skinned people. Like, this is not a huge real issue. This is an issue y'all are really creating. And then it's like, okay, say two light-skinned artists had done this and then they were dragging them for doing that and then saying it was fetishization. I think they would have been saying the same thing, to be honest. I think they would have been feeling the same way. I think that it does matter that they're biracial. I think that that does impact how people were perceiving the situation. But I do think that if they were two light-skinned women, they wouldn't like that either. I mean, look how they handle Cardi B. They've been screaming and yelling that Dominicans are black for the past 10 years. Then you get somebody like Cardi B who says that she's Afro-Caribbean. She says she's Afro-Latina multiple times. And now they feel some type of way, they're not accepting it and saying she's a fraud. So to me, it's just kind of like, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't dynamic. And I feel like light-skinned black people keep thinking that they're going to like categorize their way out of the issue, when in reality, we need to just address the issue head on. There have been problems long before people like Doja Cat and Lotto came along. There have been issues. And they stem from a lot of different places, not just the one drop rule that people love to scapegoat because they read that on Wikipedia in 2021. No, I'm talking about there's been different dynamics and issues for a very long time that have never been addressed. These biracial people that are in their 20s or even younger kids now, they're being born into a dynamic that was already dysfunctional, honestly, in a dynamic that was already discombobulated. And I feel like light-skinned black people are trying to play catch up and just like kind of adjust with whatever narratives are recent. And it's like, we're not going to just escapism our way out of this issue. It needs to be addressed head on, and all the like trying to different play about the categories, it's just wasting time at this point. It's becoming a distraction. And it's like, do you genuinely believe that these lightest anti-mixed people who genuinely have issues with biracial people, do you genuinely think that they won't be looking at you funny? They might keep it cute with you, but we know how things really are. So it's like, me personally, I choose to not play games, and I don't really have time for that, because I don't have time to try to sit up here and figure out what people think that I am. I've had enough interactions with people who think like that to know that they really don't care what you are. A lot of these people go based off looks. That's why I'm also very serious about the people who are light skinned or looking mixed. I do feel like there's a certain type of distrust and, I guess you could call it, prejudice that people of African descent who are light skinned or mixed receive. So it's not that I'm trying to be divisive or anything like that, but I do think that that is a dynamic here in the United States and that people don't like to address. There's a level of just distrust that people have for Afro, mixed, and light skinned people, and these reactions are extremely disproportionate because of these cultural narratives that have been persisting. And like, this is just my racial ideology and like how I kind of approach my arguments on my channel, is that I personally believe that most of the time you experience the world most predominantly when it comes to your identity. What really impacts it, I feel like, is phenotype as it intersects with background and culture slash ethnicity. So something I didn't get to mention in my last video about Zendaya and Tyler is that what I was basically discussing in that video is a term called cultural relevance. Now that's a term that's used more so in like I would say the anthropology field, and I took classes in anthropology, but that wasn't like my major, so I don't really get into that. But that's basically what it is, and I didn't realize that till later. I'm like, oh wait, basically I was talking about cultural relevance. I was thinking about that. So bringing that back to why I use those like categories most predominantly, and why when I started this channel I was mostly just talking about the skin tone experiences of light skinned and mixed people. And that was because there was a lot of color discourse going on. Eventually things kind of evolved into being a little more about like xenophobia and all that type of stuff too. So that's how I kind of started talking more about being mixed. But originally I was just going to talk about skin tone and skin tone politics. So that being said, that's why I use the term light skin, because I feel like it's a flat generic term that in the United States, in the cultural context that we're talking about, is applied to people of African descent who generally look a certain type of way. You know what I'm talking about? So I don't want to get into the ancestry thing. I don't want to get into the monoracial versus mixed thing. That's not really what I'm getting into. I'm just talking about how people interact with each other day to day basis. You know what I mean? You don't have your parents on your shoulders like the two little, the bad angel and the good angel. Like, that's not how people walk around in the world. When people interact with you, they just see you. Now, they will apply your phenotype based on the cultural context you come from. Again, cultural relevance. So if you say, oh, I'm black, white, biracial versus I'm Puerto Rican, you might have the same phenotype, but it's culturally relevant to who you are. You get what I mean? So I use the term light skin because it's a generic term that you generally know who I'm talking about. People do not come on my channel confused about who I'm talking about. So that's why I find it really funny when people are like, oh, blackness is too ambiguous nowadays. We call everybody black. Oh, where everybody's being one drop ruled. Is that so? Because I've been making this content for like 4 years and nobody's ever confused about who I'm talking about. Like, in the context of the United States, even because now the US culture is even being more exported because of social media and stuff like that. That whole me no black, me Dominican thing comes from the internet, from the US. Now people all over the country are saying it. Probably never even met a Dominican, but that's where it's coming from. So all of these ideas are being exported on social media. So if I say a light skinned person, nobody's confused or coy about who I'm talking about. People are simple. They are not having these deep introspective conversations about the nuances of monoraciality and the different skin tone ranges. People don't care. They just see how you look and they want to know what's your culture with your ethnicity. That's how people generally operate in New York City and in the world in general. If you're in the Midwest and you tell somebody that you're black, they're not gonna dig and try to figure out if you have 4 black American grandparents. Oh, are you Jamaican? Oh, are you from Africa? Nobody cares. Like, I'm not even trying to be mean, but it's like y'all be majoring and minors on the internet. Offline, nobody gives a fuck. They look at you and see how you look. You're gonna tell me that walking down the street in Washington Heights, somebody's gonna take the time to figure out if Lotto is Dominican versus biracial versus light skinned black with 4 black grandparents. Like, nobody cares that much. Like, that's just how the world is. So that's why I use that term. I think it's very simple. I think that people like to overcomplicate things because it doesn't fit their ideology. And now that's where a lot of these funny narratives are popping up from, because people are now creating cultural narratives around the ideology to make it make sense, even though there might be a level of truth to what is being said, or it might be coming from a place of truth, but these are still cultural narratives. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that's why I don't really care that much about people's background, and I don't try to differentiate too much. I just mostly care about like phenotype and like cultural experience, because I feel like that's what's mostly relevant and that's what I mostly observed in my life. So yeah, I feel like people are really being like facetious when they're like, oh my gosh, people view somebody that's biracial versus light skinned black versus a quote unquote unambiguous dark skinned black, when people view them so different. No, I think people understand the difference in skin tones and phenotypes, and I think people understand the difference between being mixed and, having two parents of the same ethnicity, which nobody uses the term monoracial offline. This is what I mean. These are internet ass conversations. Like, nobody's talking about nobody being MGM. Nobody's saying none of these things off the internet. So we have to apply these to real life for it to make sense. I don't have internet conversations. So yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, most people offline, they have a context of that, but I don't think that they're thinking that deeply about it. But I do think that people apply the context and they view you through that lens of your culture. So yeah, my point with that is being that if there's a biracial woman like Zendaya or something like that, they know that their culture is American. So that means you have African American and your white American culture. You know what I mean? So people are still gonna like people. Why I don't understand why people are like, oh, they're appropriating this and they're fetishizing black men. It's like, okay, isn't Lotto from Atlanta, and y'all were saying that she's not really from Atlanta, she's from a suburb, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a silly conversation. Like, it was clearly a southern rap style video from the early 2000s. That was the theme. Lotto's from Atlanta. That was a whole vibe in that era, especially with the Vixens and then eventually the strip clubs and everything, and Magic City. That was clearly the vibe. That's clearly what she's been giving off. So I think that it's interesting that, yeah, I said this earlier, when a biracial woman like Lotto leans into that like aspect of African American culture. Now they're like, oh, she's a fraud, she's fetishizing, she's taking advantage, she's just using black culture as an aesthetic, which is now what they're trying to say, that she's appropriating black culture. Any other time, now if it was a dark skinned black woman doing the same aesthetic as Lotto, then they would be saying, oh, this is super raunchy, oh, this is the downfall of black civilization because black women are shaking their butts on videos. Like, you know how they, got rid of Sexy Red with pitchforks and everything. They were so outraged about her, but then they turned it around saying a lot of it was unauthentic and that she's using blackness as an aesthetic. I'm just like, these conversations are exhausting. But yeah, I do find that interesting. It's like, so you don't like the Lottos of the world, but you also don't like the Doja Cats either. It's just a lot going on here. But yeah, me personally, I feel like what matters is cultural context and phenotype. And that's why I use the term light skin, and I'm not letting up. I'm not dropping it. It makes sense. Why would I drop something in a conversation that's been happening over 100 years? Absolutely not, because it's something that people said on the internet. No, 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 no. No, you need to confront things head on, and that's exactly what people shouldn't just like drop the whole light skin conversation. And I honestly, I do feel like people started to bring up, and I'm talking about just internet discourse, people started to bring up the whole mix thing because the light skin versus dark skin conversation was getting to be super repetitive and not as culturally relevant anymore. So I feel like that's where a lot of the narratives about biracial people start to come, and they're like, oh, they're not a part of the culture and this and that. It's like a lot of y'all faves from the early 1900s up until the 60s, even to Bob Marley, are biracial. Now all of a sudden y'all acting brand new, talking about they're not in the culture and they can't claim this and identifies that. It's like, this is ridiculous. So I'm tired of the rewriting of history and people thinking that folks are just going to change how the world is based on some internet ass conversations like that people are having on TikTok. Like, that is really strange.
But yeah, I don't want to ramble on about this too long. I pretty much hit on all the major points I wanted to. Get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all thought about my commentary in response to the reaction to Lotto's Okayyy video featuring Doja Cat. What was your reaction to the reactions or to the video? How did you feel about it? There's a lot I could say, but I don't want to ramble on. But yeah, anyways, get in the comment section and let me know what y'all thought about my commentary. Thanks for all the support. Peace.